Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome our dear students to the last session, last part in the story. Okay, we're taking Treasure Island. Bismillah. What happened till now? Jim, Dr. Livesey, and Mr. Tenway, they started the journey to go to the Treasure Island to find the treasure and come back. They hired a crew. The captain is Captain Smollett. He's a very nice and trustworthy captain. Now they knew that Mr. Sir Long John Silver is a pirate, and the crew, most of the crew who are in the ship, are with him, and they are all pirates. They started killing the pirates, the sailors, the good sailors on the ship in Hispaniola, and they want to take the treasure for themselves and take the ship and go home to a place no one knows anything about it. After they kill everyone and take the treasure for themselves. You were right, and I was wrong. What did Mr. Trenway mean by this? What did he mean? He was talking to Mr. Smollett, and he told him, you were right, and I was wrong. You were right to not trust the crew. I was wrong, because I thought that you were making a big deal of nothing. What do you think Jim should do next? What should he do? Okay, let's see what will happen. I finally stopped running, and I saw that I was close to the bottom of one of the small hills. The air was fresher here, and the trees were taller. Suddenly, from up the hill, something jumped behind a tree. I didn't know if it was a man or an animal, but it looked big and dangerous. I decided to walk back toward the beach, but then I saw him again. I realized it was a man. So he met a man on the island, but he was running very fast from tree to tree. I remembered that I had a gun, and this made me feel safer. I decided to walk towards the man. So what gave him the courage? What gave Jim the courage to walk towards the man? That he had a gun. When he saw me walking towards him, to my surprise, he came out from behind the tree and knelt down in front of me. In order to make him safe, he came from behind the tree and he knelt in front of Jim. Who are you? I asked. Ben Gunn, he said in dry voice. I have not spoken to anyone for 3 years. So he has been on the island for 3 years. The man had very long hair and skin that was burned by the sun. His clothes were dirty and made of old sails. What the meaning of knelt? Kneel, knelt, knelt. To kneel is to get down on one knee. Sorry. Okay. What the meaning of sail? His clothes were made of old sail. Sail is the big cloth on the ship. He took it in order to make clothes out of it. What's happened to you? I asked. I was left here by a ship, he said. I have lived on fish and fruit ever since. I dreamt of eating good food again. If I can get back to my ship, I will give you bread and cheese, I said. He began to look worried. If you can get back to your ship, why? What's to stop you? He said, Big Gun. Ben Gunn, he thought that Jim will answer. He's the answer for all of his prayers. He's the one who will take him on a ship and send him back to England. But what happened? He found that Jim can't go back to his ship. What? Why? It isn't a problem with you, I replied. I am a good man, he told me. I am very rich too, he said in a quiet voice. I began to think that perhaps Ben Gunn was crazy. Ben Gunn saw that I didn't believe him. I am rich, and you can be rich too, because you found me, he said. Then he looked worried and said, you didn't come on Flint's ship, did you? So he knew, Ben Gunn knew Captain Flint, and so he knew Pew, and he knew Black Dog, and he knew Silver, right? I realized now that this man could help me because he's worried of Flint. He doesn't like him. No, Flint's dead. But some of Flint's crew is on the ship. That's not good for any of us, I told him. Is there a man with one leg? With one leg? Yes, Silver. He's the cook and their leader, I explained. If you work for Silver, I am finished. So, Bingham doesn't like Silver or his crew. Maybe they left him on the island. I decided to tell him my story from the start, and he looked very interested. So Jim told them everything from the day that the captain knocked on their end. You're a good boy, he said at the end. Don't worry, you can trust me. Do you think that Renway would give me money and allow me to come home on the ship if I helped him? He asked. Of course, I replied. And he will need your help on the ship home, I am sure. Of course, we're going to need you even sailing back. You're right, he said. You know, I was on Flint's ship when he had the treasure here. He was with 6 men, and they were on the island for about a week. We waited for them on the ship called the Walrus. One day, Flint returned to the ship on his own. The other 6 men were dead. We don't know how he did it. Billy Bones and Long John Silver were with him on the ship. They asked Flint where then treasure was. You can go on the island and look for it, he said, but you will be there on your own. I am taking the ship home. So what did Flint do? When they went to this island, he took the treasure and mounted the ship with 6 men. After a week, he came back with no one and no treasure. So Bingham's friend told him, Billy Jones and Long John Silver told him what? Where's the treasure? He said, you can go mount the ship and go to the island, search for it. But we're not going to wait for you because I'm going to take the ship and leave. 3 years ago, I was on a different ship. When we saw the island, I told our crew that Flint's treasure was on it. We spent 12 days looking for it. They were not happy when we found nothing. After 3 years, Bingham was on a ship. He told them that there is a treasure on this island. So they stopped the ship, they mounted the ship, and they went to search for it, but they didn't find anything for 12 days. So they punished Bingham by leaving him on the island. One day they went back to the ship and told me I could stay. Here is a gun and a spade. One day they went back to the ship and told me I could stay. Here is a gun and a spade. You can look for the treasure on your own, they said. So you tell Trenway I would prefer to work for a man I can't trust like him than with a group of pirates. I don't trust pirates. I will tell him. But how can I return to my ship from here? I asked. I have a boat. I made it myself. We could go to the ship when it's dark. Suddenly we heard the sound of a gun. They have started to fight. I said, we must be quick. Come quickly. We have to hide. I began to run back with Ben. He gave me directions and ran easily next to me. We heard more guns. Then I saw a flag flying above some trees. Take care of the flag because we're going to need it in the next chapter. I saw a flag flying above some trees. Chapter 6. I've dreamt of eating food again. What does this tell you about Gun's life on the island? It was a very miserable life. He didn't eat properly. Why do you think Gun was left alone on the island? Because the pirate punished him. What agreement did Jim have with Gun? Mr. Trenway will give him money, food, and a ride on the ship. And he will help them. Who do you think the flag might belong to? Who do you think we will see in this chapter? Dr. Livesey. When the boats went to the shore, now we knew what happened to Jim and Long Silver and what happened on the island. During this time, what happened on the ship? Dr. Livesey, when the boats, this is a diary for Dr. Livesey. When the boats went to the shore, I talked to Captain Smollett and Mr. Trenway. There was no wind at all, so we knew we couldn't take the ship, even if we wanted to attack the 6 men who stayed on the ship with us. Then we heard that Jim Hawkins was on the island with Silver and his men. We were very worried about him. I decided to take a boat to the shore with another man we could trust, called Hunter. When we reached the island, we walked a little way, and then we found a small fort. Fort is like a castle. Okay, it was big enough for about 25 people and was very well defended. Defended, it means if someone attacks you, it will hold. It also had water. Then I heard a shout. I thought that Jim was dead. We ran back to the boat and soon returned to the Hispaniola. I told Captain Smollett and Mr. Trenway my plan. We quickly put food, medicines, and guns in the boat. At the same time, Captain Smollett and Mr. Trenway said to Silver's men who were still on the ship, "We have guns. If you try to contact Silver, you will be dead." They looked very surprised. So what happened when they said goodbye, farewell to John Silver and his crew? When they told him you can stay the whole day on the island, and at the end of the day, when you hear a gunshot, you can come back. They told him goodbye. They searched for Jim. They didn't find Jim anywhere. What happened after that? They decided, Dr. Livesey decided that the 6 sailors on the ship are pirates. So even if they want to take the ship and go, they can't do this. Let's say they killed them. How can 3 people sail a ship? No, they can sail a boat, but not a ship. It needs a crew. And they didn't find Jim. He was with Silver. So what did they decide to do? We have to take care of ourselves. Another plan. Dr. Livesey said, "What? I will take a boat. Food. They put food, guns, and medicines on the boat, and they sailed to the island. They searched for a place that they can stay in. They found a fort. They put everything there, and they went back. And they took with them Captain Smollett and Mr. Trenway. Before they go, they said to Silver's men, "If you try to contact Silver, we will do what? You will be dead. We will kill you." They were surprised because they didn't know that they knew this secret. They didn't know. They thought that Captain Smollett and Trenway and Dr. Livesey, they didn't know that they were pirates. I then took the boat back to the beach with Hunter and another sailor called Joyce. We quickly took everything up to the port. Then I felt Hunter and Joyce in the fort and returned to the Hispaniola. He left Hunter and Joyce. He went alone. We knew that Silver had more men than us, but we also knew that none of them had guns. We thought that this gave us an advantage. On the Hispaniola, Trenway helped me to put food and more weapons into the boat. So Dr. Livesey went back to take Trenway and Captain Smollett with him. Then we called for Captain Smollett, Rudrich, Captain Trenway, Mr. Trenway's servant, and a good sailor called Abraham Gray, and then climbed into the boat with us. They climbed into the boat with us. Our journey back to the island was more difficult than the others. Why? There were more people and supplies now, so the boat was heavy and very close to the water. We had to be very careful to prevent the boat from sinking. The wind blew from a different direction too, and we were not moving towards the beach near the fort. So the boat and the wind and everything took them to another place. It's taking them away from the fort. "We will never get to the beach," I said. "We must keep in this direction," said Captain Smollett. "Work hard, be patient, and we will arrive." Then his voice changed. "The cannon," he called. Cannon, what's the meaning of cannon? Do you know the gun? A gun? It's like big one with balls. These balls has powder in it. Okay, gunpowder. So who has the cannon? The ship. I looked around and realized that the men we left on the Hispaniola were preparing a cannon. We were moving so slowly that we were not far from the ship. It would be easy for them to hit us. Trenway stood up with a gun and fired at the pirates, and one of them fell. We heard a cry from the ship and another from the beach. We saw that the other pirates were getting into their boats. So they heard the gunshot. The pirates went back to the beach and found this, and they trying to get to their boats to get Captain Smollett, Trenway, and Dr. Livesey. Why? They have the map. Go as fast as you can, said Captain Smollett. If we don't get to the beach, we're finished. They are only using one boat, I said. The other men are walking to the beach to wait for us. It's a long way for them to run, said Captain Smollett. It's a race to get there first. We moved fast, and the wind was not so strong near the beach. However, Trenway fired his gun again, which made us all move to one side of the boat. It started to sink, but we were in just 3 feet of water. It wasn't difficult to walk to the beach, but we had lost many of our supplies in the water, including some of our guns. So when Mr. Trenway fired his gun, the boat, most of them went to one side, so the balance of the boat changed, so the boat sank. But they weren't far from the beach, but they lost their supplies, and they started running. There were now voices in the trees, and we knew that the pirates were near. We had to get to the fort before the pirates got to the beach. We all ran as fast as possible, and at last we saw the fort in front of us. At the same time, 7 pirates arrived at the other side of it. The pirates looked surprised to see the fort and stopped. They didn't know that there were a fort there, even though they were on the beach on this island before. So maybe Bingham did it. He's the one who built this fort. This gave us time to fire our guns, and they quickly turned and ran into the trees behind them. They were afraid. Before we could enter the fort, we heard another gunfire, and poor Roderick fell down. We quickly picked him up and took him into the fort, but it was too late. He was dead. Trenway was very sad. Roderick had been a good servant to him. Captain Smollett put up a flag inside the fort and counted the supplies. Then he asked me, how long will we have to spend on this island? So who put the flag? Captain Smollett put up a flag. And this is the flag that Jim and Ben gun. So in England, I told blandly that if we were not back by August to come and find us. I explained. This is Dr. Livesey talking. We need the supplies that were lost in the sea, said Captain Smollett. Without them, we have enough supplies until July only. At that moment, we heard gunfire and the fort was nearly hit. Then, they can see the flag, said Trenway. We should take it down. No, said Captain Smollett. We keep the flag. It will show the pirates that we are not frightened of them. The gunfire continued, but it was almost impossible for them to hit anyone inside the fort. Just then we heard someone calling, Doctor, Mr. Trenway, Captain, are you there? I ran to the door of the fort, and I found Jim Hawkins safe and alive. So now all of them are together again. Everything is fine, and this is the whole story. Treasure Island for the first term. Okay, so we stopped. We have finished the story where everything started together. to the journey. They started the journey together, and it ended. Chapter 6 ended with them all together. Dr. Livesey Smollett, Captain Smollett, Dr. Livesey, Mr. Trenway, and Jim Hawkins. Okay. I hope this is the last session in the online. I hope to see you at the beginning of the year. Safe and sound, and happy term, inshallah. See you later.